For centuries, the difference between a criminal and a national hero at sea came down to a single piece of paper. Not the ship, not the cannons, not the bloodshed, not the stolen cargo. Just a document. With it, you were a privateer, a defender of national interest. Without it, you were a pirate, destined for the gallows. History remembers one as a patriot and the other as a thief. The ocean, of course, didn't care, because piracy wasn't a failure of the system. It was the system outsourced. Welcome to Financial Timeline, where money, power, and history collide. And nothing is ever as simple as it looks. By the 16th and 17th centuries, the world economy exploded outward. Silver poured out of the Americas. Spices flowed from Asia. Sugar, tobacco, and textiles crossed oceans in quantities never seen before. The profits were enormous. So were the risks. Ships traveled for months. Information moved at the speed of wind. A disaster could unfold and be forgotten before news ever reached a capital. No empire, no matter how powerful, could patrol every sea lane, escort every convoy, or defend every shipment. Navies were expensive. Ships needed crews, ports, repairs, salaries, and constant funding. And war was constant. Empires were rich, but overstretched. They needed power without permanence, reach without responsibility, violence without payroll. So they chose the cheapest option available. They outsourced. Governments began issuing documents called letters of marque. These weren't suggestions. They were licenses. Licenses to hunt enemy ships, to seize cargo, to loot, burn, and destroy, legally. The violence was identical to piracy. The difference was authorization. Captured ships were brought before admiralty courts. Loot was declared legitimate. Prize profits were split between crews, investors, and the state. This wasn't chaos. It was financial engineering. The state paid no salaries. Absorbed no losses. Managed no daily operations. Private investors funded the ships. Captains recruited desperate crews. If the mission failed, losses were private. If it succeeded, gains were shared. The crown took its cut without firing a single cannon. Privateering was one of history's earliest examples of privatized risk and socialized reward. The logic was brutally efficient. Investors financed violence. Sailors absorbed the danger. Governments collected revenue and weakened enemies. If it failed, it was unfortunate. If it succeeded, it was national defense. And the further you were from the deck, the safer and richer you became. This wasn't an exception. It was standard policy across empires. In England, Sir Francis Drake is remembered as a hero. Under a Spanish flag, he would have been hanged. England wasn't unique. France issued thousands of letters of marque from ports like St. Malo and Dunkirk. The Dutch Republic relied on privateers like the Sea Beggars to finance rebellion. Ottoman-lined corsairs raided Christian shipping with imperial blessing. Spain played the opposite role. Its massive silver fleets were predictable and irresistible. The harder Spain tried to control trade, the more profitable privateering became for its enemies. Legality changed with the wind. Violence stayed the same. Queen Elizabeth didn't just tolerate Drake's raids. She invested in them. So did nobles, merchants, and courtiers across Europe. When ships returned heavy with silver, the profits were enormous. Publicly, governments denied responsibility. Privately, they enjoyed the returns. Plausible deniability became doctrine. If questioned, it was piracy. If successful, it was strategy. An entire financial ecosystem emerged. Shipyards expanded. Ports grew rich. Insurers priced violence. Courts legalized theft through paperwork. Violence became normalized, priced, and institutionalized. This wasn't disorder. It was order, carefully managed. Sailors lived brutally short lives. Disease, shipwrecks, combat, execution. Crews were paid only if they succeeded. Investors spread risk across fleets. Governments collected revenue without accountability. The system rewarded distance from danger. Over time, something uncomfortable became obvious. The crews took the risks. The crews fought. The crews navigated the seas. The state offered permission and nothing else. And permission could be revoked overnight. A treaty signed thousands of miles away could turn a legal privateer into a hunted criminal. So some crews asked a dangerous question. If the work is the same, the danger is the same, and the violence is the same, why share the profits at all? Pirates didn't reject privateering. They perfected it. They removed the middleman. Many pirate crews adopted rules that looked shockingly modern. Captains elected, loot divided by contract, injuries compensated, decisions voted on. They weren't moral. They were efficient, and efficiency without control terrified governments. Pirates ignored flags, ignored treaties, ignored borders. They disrupted trade, undermined authority, exposed an uncomfortable truth. Violence didn't require a crown, so governments changed the narrative. Heroes became monsters, executions became spectacles. Amnesty was offered then, withdrawn. By the early 18th century, piracy wasn't immoral. It was inconvenient. Treaties like the Declaration of Paris ended privateering. Not because it was wrong, but because states no longer needed partners. Navies were now centralized, violence monopolized. Outsourcing was obsolete. The model wasn't abandoned. It evolved. Today, the ships are gone. The logic remains: private military contractors, corporate resource extraction, financial institutions rewarded for risk, shielded from consequence. When it works, profits rise. When it files, responsibility evaporates. Privatize gains, diffuse losses, the oldest business model in history. Pirates weren't villains because they were violent. They were villains because they were uncontrolled. Privaters weren't heroes because they were lawful. They were heroes because they were profitable and obedient. The difference was never morality. It was authorization. History's most successful criminals didn't break the system. They worked for it. And when the system no longer needed them, it erased them. History doesn't repeat, but it rhymes with alarming consistency. The oceans are quieter now, but the business model survives. Outsource the risk. Capture the upside. Deny responsibility. That was true in the age of pirates, and it's true now. If this changed how you see history, subscribe. History has the answers. Financial Timeline will show you where to look.